August is commonly the dead part of the NBA offseason where there's not a lot going on. Teams are kind of just getting ready, setting up for training camp, kind of finalizing their roster. Things have started to change over the last couple of years with restricted free agents like Ben Mathurin and Jalen Duren still technically unsigned. Players like, as well as Jonathan Kuminga unsigned. But you have teams that have already compiled their rosters that are still maybe looking to make some trades to solidify some things. And today, our boy Elias Schuster over at Sports Illustrated has an interesting article out regards to that the the Bulls have been connected to Labaron Philon before, and now could be a team that could could get him in exchange for Jalen Smith. Now, this is speculation, but we're going to talk about it all and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go into this content for today, y'all. I want to be clear here. We're not going to schedule this one around as a rumor. It's not. I want to make the framing very clear here. This was an article written by Elias Schuster that is speculation on what could happen. Now, when you pair this with some things that the 76ers are looking for front help in the front court, and because they are a one-now team and they could be looking to or could be open to moving off a rookie player, a younger player that if they feel like may not be contributing. Now, I don't know if this were to even happen. It's probably not going to happen now. It's probably more of a trade deadline thing. But with that said, it is an experiment in the thought that Elias Schuster has presented here that the Chicago Bulls could be a team that could make a trade for Labaron Philon with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, many people remember we scouted him very heavily. He was a player that many Bulls fans did want at that 15th pick instead of Dalen Swain. And so I want to be clear here. This is not aggregation. We're not going to do stuff like this, but I do feel like this is worth talking about, right? And it's worth talking about because Philly's situation does matter. Philly is not a developing team anymore. And while they already have second-year player in VJ Edgecombe, who has proven some things, this is a team that is already, that we do know, is chasing a title for a fact. They are in full win-now mode. With LeBron James and Jaylen Brown in tow, it does change the urgency around there. You have Tyrese Maxey on that team. You have VJ Edgecombe. There's already young backcourt pillars on this team. And Anfernee Simons adds another veteran guard to that team as well who's going to need touches. You have KCP as well, who adds another veteran reliability player to that team. And so Philon, who is a very talented player, right? But championship teams don't always have patience for rookie mistakes. And one could make a case, and, my boy, Matt Moore, shout out to who I do Locked On NBA with, has also made a case that, like, when you really look at it, rookies don't always help teams win games right away. Like, especially if you're on a team that is in a win-now mode, you don't always see those teams put young players put those teams in a position where they win more games. Now, one could say that Labaron Philon's role is going to be very, constricted, right? And so therefore, like, a player like LeBron could elevate that as well in the off-court minutes. And so you have a question in regards to that. So again, this is why this is all speculative right now, but it is worth talking about, right? If Labaron Philon does get squeezed out, and, and having talent does not always guarantee an opportunity, especially on a win team. He fell to number 22 for a reason, right? And it did make him a very big value pick, and a pick that if the Bulls would have made it at number 15, I wouldn't have thought was crazy, right? But with Maxey locked in, Edgecombe locked in, Simons in the mix, all those players that we mentioned before, Philon could be the player that spends a lot of time waiting and maybe even getting sent down to the G League. And could the Philadelphia 76ers end up finding themselves needing more front court depth, especially to keep Joel Embiid healthy, to where maybe they do want to take a shot on a player like Jalen Smith? And the Bulls do offer a cleaner fit. We know that the Chicago Bulls made a ploy to get Sylvian Francisco from the European League over here, right? And so, Labaron Philon would fit that type of mode right away for a Chicago Bulls team. And I have said this before, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen right now. It's not going to happen immediately. But a player like Leonard Miller, the combination of Leonard Miller and Zach Collins could make a player like Jalen Smith, kind of redundant on this team to a degree. Leonard Miller is more of a 4-5 than he is a 3-4. Same thing with Jalen Smith. So there is a case to be made that maybe, again, the Bulls offer a cleaner fit for a team like Labaron Philon because they do need that scoring off the bench, and he can come in and fill that role right away. Now, there's not outside the possibility that Labaron Philon is good enough to where the Philadelphia 76ers make him the backup point guard right away as well, which is a big case there, right? But I do think the Bulls, who are in evaluation mode at the start of it, and that do need a scoring guard. Now, where LeBron Philon is 6'3", a little bit shorter, Sylvian Francisco was 6'1", 6'2", and they were looking at him and bringing that, right? And then also, Dalen Swain could end up being more of a forward than a guard. Like, we don't know what's going to happen in regards to that one. Norman Powell, he's a bridge veteran in regards to that one. Rob Dillingham is a player that hasn't proven himself. So, in Chicago, Philon wouldn't necessarily be waiting behind veterans in the depth part of the rotation. He'd be behind a veteran in Norman Powell starting, but he would be auditioning for a role right now for a Chicago Bulls team. I do also think that what makes Philon interesting as well is that he has the handle. He was a 3-level scorer, at least in college. He's able to create in the mid-range, both for himself and for others. He's improved as a finisher basically every year, and he shot nearly 40% from three in his sophomore year in college as well. With his ability to create off the dribble, play at pace, push the pace as well. Like, this is a player that brings a lot of those things that, again, the Bulls were kind of looking for it from Francisco if they would have brought him in. Philon is not the biggest or most explosive guard. I want to be clear there, but he does have the kind of controlled scoring package that the Bulls could absolutely use right away, right now. Then you have to look at the Giddey fit, right? Labaron Philon's shooting could open the floor and floor more next to Josh Giddey. Now, it's a smaller backcourt with which you have that, but Giddey needs people who can shoot around him, and that fits. It also fits with, players like Matas and Caleb Wilson and stuff like that. He can run with Josh Giddey in transition. He can play off the ball. Labaron Philon is a really good catch-and-shoot player coming off screens and things like that. He doesn't need the ball to create, but then also it gives you more creation when Josh Giddey is sitting, which is something that the Bulls, again, were looking for from Sylvian Francisco. That's what really makes this more intriguing, is the fact that now that we know that the Bulls were willing to bring in a European guard that brought a lot of these same things with a lot of the same body makeup and stuff like that, it is an interesting case. Then you have to look at the Matas Buzelis and Caleb Wilson part of it. Both these guys are the front court foundation we're hoping for a long time for the Chicago Bulls. Unique perimeter creation around those. Philon brings that perimeter creation when you look at it. His shooting can help make clearer lanes for Caleb Wilson and Matas Buzelis to slash. It can do that. The secondary creation could take a little bit of pressure. I talked on today's earlier episode about Matas Buzelis becoming that secondary creator and being the stagger guy with that bench unit. He can do that. Caleb and Matas would still theoretically be the foundation if they prove to do so, but you still need guards around those guys to do it, and young guards can make that. And I'll say this too, even if Dalen Swain ends up working out, Dalen Swain and Labaron Philon could be your 1-2 punch off the bench because Swain is still talented, and the long-term position is uncertain for him, but we do kind of know he's more of a wing. Labaron Philon is more of a 1-2, so there's a situation where you can develop those guys together, and you could be have multiple connectors in that role. You can bring guys in that can develop together, those type of things. And so it's a different archetype, but archetypes that still fit together in your long-term building plan. And that is something that Bryson Graham and the Chicago Bulls should absolutely be looking to, validate as things go on. Now, there's a huge case of this that Philly's just going to say no. He's a cost-controlled rookie scale contract. He gives them another young scoring guard coming off the bench so they can develop. The LeBron window is 2 years, right? So I don't think they're going to mortgage all of their future for a two-year run. And if future questions do emerge on Simons or any of those other guys, Philon becomes more useful, and he's a safety plan for when those guys age out and probably move off the roster, that you have that. And the 76ers are going to want to evaluate because Labaron Philon could end up being a rookie that does contribute right away. So I want to be clear. In no way am I saying that this is a trade that they need to rush in August. This may be a trade that's available in February. It could be something to watch and monitoring, and so we'll see. But just because he fits more on paper in Chicago than maybe in Philly, it doesn't mean that Philly is eager to trade a young player that they just drafted at 22nd overall. But the front court hole in Philly is legitimate. Joel Embiid's health is an issue. You lost Andre Drummond. He's gone, right? The backup big options in like a Dembana are solid, but Jalen Smith brings more scoring, more shot blocking than those guys, right? And contender may want to find a more reliable front court depth option. And also, Jalen Smith is a guy that can also play with LeBron, play with Jalen as well. He can play with Dembana. So you have that part of it. So the fit on paper makes sense for both teams. Jalen Smith has already been mentioned as a trade hook for the Chicago Bulls. What better way to use a veteran trade hook for a player that you could have in Leonard Miller coming off the bench that can pass him up or that can replace him, and then going out and finding the scoring that you need on your bench. Now, I want to be clear. The Bulls aren't trying to fix everything in one offseason. This does seem like more of a 2K move than a real live move, and that's because it is. But Philly has had interest in Jalen Smith before. That was with the last front office, though. The front office has changed, so we don't know if they still have that same interest, right? So we'll see what happens. This is would be another upside swing that the Bulls could make. You talk about adding Ben Mathurin at $20 million. You talk about adding things like that. It doesn't get in the way of you like going after a Bryson ball next year in the offseason either. With the Bulls having all the second-round picks, they can kind of make it make sense as well. Now, protected first, get too much. I wouldn't be giving up a protected first, even in how the next two drafts are for Philon. He's talented, he's unproven, and there's some fit concerns long-term because of the size there, and it's there. Now, I think the timing of this matters. This is more of a deadline watch than a right-now watch, and that's there. But I do think taking a shot on Philon for a veteran that's expiring and could be looking to go to a winning situation at the end of the season anyway would be worth a bite at the apple for the Chicago Bulls if that's what they want to look at. We'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens. I think, we'll watch. If Philon could end up being a Jared McCain type player in the sense that he's just ready to go right away. And if that is the case, Philly's not going to move him cheaply. We already saw what they moved McCain for. His value can jump up very quickly, and that could be something as well that the Philadelphia 76ers want to take advantage of. But I do think that if you look at this, it fits Bryson Graham's strategy. It fits that. Not every move is going to be a star move. Not every trade has to be a star trade. Sometimes you chase a young player and you give them an opportunity that could be stuck behind a win-now roster. We've seen that happen. You have second-round picks. You have flexibility. You have all these type of things. You have veterans that you can move as well. Now, I mentioned Jalen Smith. What if they do need another creation and they want a player like Trey Jones? So there's a lot of options in regards to that. Good rebuilding teams, what they want to do is maintain flexibility and try to add some things where it makes sense at. And that's what this would be. So I'll say this. Monitor and get aggressively. Just monitor it. But don't overpay. Do not overpay for Labaron Philon right now. Do not cash in too many future assets because you don't know exactly what he's going to be. Jalen Smith is a logical trade piece because Philly does need big man help. And that need could get even more as the season goes on, or it could be lessened if Joel Embiid is actually healthy. So, don't attack premium first-round picks, but be open to moving things that make sense. And that's what I think the Chicago Bulls should do in this case. But let me know what you guys think on it down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or a live stream. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.